Welcome, everybody. We're here at Davos Annual Meeting 2026 in Davos, Switzerland. I'm here with the leader, Brent Hoberman, good friend, somebody who has led the way not only in convening founders in Founders Forum, but also actually in putting money to work in the venture community in the UK and around the world with Firstminute Capital, which of course is a fun play on Last Minute, which is one of his most successful companies that you built. Fantastic success story there yourself as an operator. So you're not just an investor, you're somebody who actually operates companies, has operated companies. From your perspective, Brent, let's just start with the investing perspective. AI is exciting. I'm sure most of the business plans you're seeing are AI oriented. On the one hand, AI is helpful to startups because they can do more with less. And so that's great. But it's also obviously a very challenging landscape given how much competition there is out there in the AI landscape. How do you view that as an investor?
Yeah, as an investor, I mean, we've done a lot of AI, a lot of B2B AI SaaS, to use all the acronyms at once.
It's the golden jargon.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I think, boring tends to be better. Sexy consumers really hard, and let's leave that to the giants. I think things like vertical AI SaaS, where we see an ag tech company doing it, or a company doing AI for veterinarians, or those sorts of companies. Obviously also, to your world, where they are based on big data moats that they have access to and others plausibly don't. We love that.
So in other words, let's talk about the data, because data is a key issue here. Yeah. Most of the AI companies initially started with the public data, the web. Yeah. That's available to everybody, helpful to them, but clearly there's no moat around that. Yeah. And so your point is that as you see startups that are focused on specific proprietary data sets that they might have in pharma, in energy, in other areas, that becomes more exciting.
Yeah, and I guess where they can also get a network effect of data, where they're building more and more data. The bigger they grow, the more proprietary data they get, which helps their models be better.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, let's turn to not competition among companies, but competition among countries.
Yes.
And so you're based in the UK, but you have a global view. What would you like to see countries like the UK do to be competitive? It's a very intense race right now in terms of both the use of AI in business, but also for national defense. How do you see that kind of competition playing out?
Well, look, for AI, I think there is a massive debate on whether you need your own sovereign model. We are tiny investors in Mistral, for example, and we're investors in Wave, which is an autonomous driving.
W-A-Y-V.
Exactly, thank you. Autonomous driving out of the UK. So two of the European leaders. But then there is this debate of, do you need a sovereign AI? Or, as our former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak says and wrote recently, look, we just need to be, like in the Industrial Revolution, the adopters of AI. I think that debate still needs to be had. I don't think that, Mistral wins clients, the French sovereign AI, because companies want to say, look, we want to support a local company. We don't want everything to be with others. But I think the jury's still out on how much that really matters and whether these guys can keep up. But obviously the global arms race with China and others, we heard about it here today at your excellent event about the chips and NVIDIA China. Also about the war for talent from Commerce Secretary Lutnick. I think the war for talent, to me, is almost the most interesting part of this.
And when you think about talent, UK has fantastic universities. Yes. Oxford, Cambridge, very famous, but also 20 more of them that people may not know. Imperial, UCL, Bristol, Nottingham, Manchester, so on and so forth, Edinburgh, so many. Where's that talent going? How do you make sure that talent channels into these kind of startups and unicorns?
Yeah, look, firstly, we have actually started a fund called the Creator Fund, which is like a US dorm room fund. It backs the best talent out of universities when they spin out. But I think the challenge we got, the UK, obviously, we're a world leader in number of startups, and then where the challenge that everybody talks about is scale-ups. There's obviously, capital is one part of that equation, talent's another. Is there enough talent that's done it before? But the other part of it actually is customers. And I'm actually fascinated in my old age as customers. I think
you're still young, Brent. You're still young.
Thank you, Jack. We're still enthusiastic. So I think having more European companies be customers of startups or scale-ups is really important. Entrepreneurs tell me it is 10x easier to get a US company to sign up with them than a European company. So that we need to change. But that goes to something more fundamental throughout Europe, throughout the whole European project versus America right now. Attitude to risk.
Yeah.
America is taking risks. It's being bold. Whatever you think of the current government, whatever I think of them, one thing I admire as an entrepreneur is the risk-taking, gutsy attitude. And I think we're starting to see from Ursula von der Leyen and the European Commission that the EU recognizes they have to take risks. There's now more talk of the 15 inner countries of the UK coming together. Just today, there's more talk of EU Inc. and integrate in more EU integration. Taking those risks because Europe has no other option.
Good. Well, we're going to check in a few months, see how it's going.
Great.
Thank you,
Sure.
Brent.
Thank
Great to
you,
see you,
Jack.
my friend.